Welcome. I'm glad to have you here today. My name is Albert Cathona, Product Manager here at Barco, and I'd like to introduce the Coronis OneLook to you. So this is something we've been working on for a number of years, actually. Quite excited to bring it. And first, I'm going to talk about some of the trends in radiology. So if we look at what's happening, there's an increase in the case volumes. And this is because we're providing more healthcare to more people. And so there are going to be more diagnostic exams that go along with that. And those diagnostic exams are becoming more complicated. Against that, we have a shortage of radiologists everywhere in the world. You know, there's only so many people being educated in this, and it's certainly not scaling with the increase in the case volumes. Added to that, we have a growing need for people to review multimodality images. So you have plain x-rays, but then someone gets a CT, and then they get a functional exam, and then someone wants to refer back to several of the priors. And so all of this is being brought up and really making it be that this shortage is very acute. And what does this bring us to is really a demand for improving the efficiency of radiologists, the throughput of the radiologists, without compromising the accuracy. So against this challenge, I'll say problem, we wanted to bring a product that would make this easier, that would make people able to get more work done without it being as hard. So I want to maybe start with a video giving an overall impression of the product. So, when we have this product that we've brought, we've given it a name, OneLook. And why is that? And it really has to do with the fact that the images that we're trying to show are more detailed than what was previously possible. So let me show you what that looks like. If I bring up an image here, this is the number of pixels that there were on a Coronis Unity. And on a Coronis OneLook, it's this many. So there's 2.5 times as many pixels. And why is that important? The detectors that people are using to create the X-rays are higher resolution than what can be displayed on the existing displays. And so people are always seeing a subset of the image, either a scaled down version of it without all the detail, or just a piece of it, and then they have to look at it in pieces. And so we wanted to bring something that would show the whole thing in one look. So now let's look at the Coronis OneLook. What does it have? Has the highest resolution ever in breast imaging, right? It is a large display. It's 33-inch diagonal. And importantly, it has a 3:2 aspect ratio. So with a 3:2 aspect ratio, you can show things in a taller format that people like to have, because if it if it doesn't fit and you have to scale it down, it also gets smaller in the other direction and you just have a small picture. So often by making the display taller, more body shape, you're able to show more information. It's a versatile multimodality display, meaning that it's going to show people color images, grayscale images, breast images, general radiology images. You can use it for anything. And then importantly, it's the brightest display. And that brightness is about 20% more than what's been available in the past. So what does that get you? A diagnostic advantage. You have the full resolution images in one look. So you're getting to see the true information all the time and more quickly because you're not looking at it in pieces. It's an optimized workflow. Not only do you have that full resolution in one look, but you have also a customizable touch bar down here, which I'll talk about in a moment, that you can put things on to launch things or make shortcuts and such. And then you have also the productivity tools like Spot View and Clone View and such to make your workflow more easy. And then lastly, for comfort, you have a high medical contrast, which is something that makes the images appear sharper, but also be easier on your eyes. And then a wider color range. And very importantly, remote QA. What do I mean by remote QA? I mean the radiologist doesn't have to be involved. It's being done remotely, and then someone who's responsible for the QA is able to see those results without bothering the radiologist, without asking them to send in information and such. So that's definitely a benefit for the radiologist. Now here, we're showing how the higher resolution is generating a sharper image, right? If you have more pixels to represent the same information, then you get a sharper image. You can see, you can resolve smaller details. The high medical contrast, what does that consist of? Well, you have the brightness, and then you have a high contrast ratio, and what you're getting is more just noticeable differences, more ability to discern one tissue from another tissue. And so here it's the most that we've ever made, 770 just noticeable differences. And when you use the iLuminate feature, then in fact it's going to get even larger. And I'll show what that looks like here. If I bring up a mammography image and I have the iLuminate button and I turn that on, you can see that the whole display becomes brighter. If I turn that off, it's dimmer, and when I turn that on, it's brighter. Now, in terms of color, the calibration that we offer with SteadyColor serves to spread out the colors evenly. But importantly, there's 30% wider range now. So if I look at a color image here, and I've got here the typical presentation that you would get, where the reds are hard to discern between them, likewise the greens and the blues, and there's very little yellow or orange, not very much cyan, and so the impression is of it being like just a few colors. And if I turn on the SteadyColor calibration, let me do that again here, hang on a second. If I turn on the SteadyColor calibration, now I've got something which is much smoother and has many more shades. So if I again show that what that looks like. So this is what it looks like without the SteadyColor calibration, where it really is just squeezing it into, you know, red, green, blue. And then if I turn on the SteadyColor calibration, it's a bit brighter but also there's much finer gradations between it. So that's what you get from having this calibration. The next thing is that because you have a 33-inch screen and it's one continuous piece, you can divide it up however you like. So for example, given that we have so much resolution, if I bring up something where maybe it's a case with 24 ultrasound images that I want to look at, and I could look at 12 and then I could look at the next 12. But in fact, if I show it as 24 all at once, these are all full resolution, and these are all bright enough that you can see the details on it without having to zoom in on it. So it saves you having to step from one hanging to another hanging, because you can fit more on a hanging. And now if we talk about the rapid frame feature. So rapid frame makes it so that when you flip images in, say you're scrolling through CT or moving a magnifying glass around on the screen, or going through the tomosynthesis slices of a breast imaging exam, what you want is that as you flip through those, it's going to be that they're nice and crisp, right? So if I go forward here again and show this, so here's someone who's using the touchpad to flip through the images, and you want it to be that they're changing here very smoothly. Now, of course, I can't really show you this today, over the Teams or Zoom call here, but it's something where when you see this, you'll see that it is, in fact, much sharper than anything that's been seen before. And it's literally twice as fast that it gets to the correct value as on our previous products. All right, now I'm going to talk a little bit about this touch bar. So the touch bar lets you put icons on here that do things. So the pictures of them are visible, and if I come over here and look at this, so here's the touch bar down here, and when I'm not doing anything with it, then it will dim down so that it's not interfering with my view of the medical images. But suppose there's something on here like I have a button for my Zoom, and so I go here and I open up Zoom, or I'm done having Zoom opened up. And the important thing is I don't have to bring down the application that was here to find these things on the desktop. So that's one application of it. Another one is that you could have shortcuts that are actually driving things in your viewing application that maybe are down on a menu and you don't remember that there's a complicated key sequence to do it. You can make a little picture of what it is and put it on here. So it can launch programs, it can do shortcuts, it can activate things like the spot view function, where I can zoom up on something like that. Let me pick a better image for that. So if I take a mammo image like this, and I have the spot here, and I can move that around, and so you can activate these things variously. And if suppose you're someone who doesn't use the touchpad, you just have a mouse, and you want to turn on the spot view, then there it is. It's happening, and you can continue to use this until you dismiss it. All right, so that's what the touch bar has. It's configurable as to how bright it is and which things you want to have on it. And then in terms of the quality control, how does that bring you peace of mind? The important thing is that the workstations are all hooked up to the cloud, and they're giving their quality information up to the central server, but also they're inheriting the policies that the institution sets so that everybody's equipment is properly calibrated and being checked. And this is something that's I would say improved a lot over the years, but now is very, very important with people taking systems home. You want to be able to monitor what is the quality of the work that's being done in the home as well as in the institution. In terms of the eco score, this product has an A+ eco label with the Barco system of measuring these things. And it gets that from being energy efficient in two ways. One, when the display is being used, the amount of light it's making for the amount of power consumed is very efficient. But also importantly, when it's not being used, it goes into a very low power state so that it's not wasting energy when no one's using it. The packaging has been optimized to use less materials. It uses recycled materials. The plastics include a substantial amount of post-consumer content plastics. And the whole thing is designed for recyclability. So at the end of its life of service, people can take it apart and recycle the components. The Barco intuitive workflow tools that there's quite a number of these, but I'm just going to go through a couple that are very popular. The first one is Spot View, and if I just bring up again, a typical picture here, this is where you have something where I can go and I can turn on this spot, I can change the size of it, I can use it to zoom. So this is a very popular product, and I think one of the nice things about this being included with the Coronis OneLook is that, again, the resolution here is always including all of the image that was acquired by the detector. And so when you're zooming that up, you're making it larger, but it's not like there's actually more resolution somewhere that you should be switching to. It's already all there on the screen, and we're just increasing the size of that 2x to make it easier on your eye. DL Precise is a tool that can use artificial intelligence to find the boundaries of densities. This is available in the US and UK at this moment. Registrations are proceeding in other countries, but for now it's only available in certain regions. DimView is the tool that if you have an ancillary display, maybe showing a patient list or radiology information system, then when you're not using that display, when your cursor's over on the diagnostic display, that display dims down an amount that you set so that it's not adding too much light into your field of view. And then when you move your cursor back over there, it brightens it back up again so you can use it. And then the Illuminate feature is the one that when I touch this, and it will make the whole screen brighter, and that way the image is a bit clearer, and you can toggle that on and off. It times out by itself after a minute, so that in case you forget. And then some of the other ones, that I would call attention to, the virtual view lets you have, if you have an application that wants its own screen, but you don't want to give it its own screen, you can say, well, there will be a virtual screen that appears on the Windows desktop, but it'll just appear in a window, and you can toggle it on and off, on the display that you have. The single view and display partitioner, that lets you say whether your display appears as one big rectangle, which a lot of people use, but some people always divide it up in half because their application expects to have two side-by-side displays. And they don't have the ability to change that, so we can make the display appear as two different ones. The conference clone view is something that lets you take as many displays as you have on your workstation and then pick a subset of them to appear on a projector when you're doing teaching. So those are a couple of them. And then another one that I think is interesting is Multi-Display Confer, which is very similar to that, but it's really designed for when you're using Zoom or Teams and you're going to share your content with someone else, but you don't just want to share one window or one display. You actually want to send a subset of the ones that you have, or it could be all the ones that you have, and let them zoom in on the parts they want to see, but you're not like only sharing one head of two heads. The The soft glow, I think that's an important feature because it affects how much fatigue there is. So if I have this light here, I can toggle that on and off. Here I've got a button for that. And similarly, I can turn on and off the one that goes on the wall, and the levels of this can be adjusted. And those let's say, try to create a more even boundary in your vision between the nice bright display and potentially too dark a background. Okay, and then if we go on, all right, so in terms of the range of product that Barco offers, for general radiology, we have the Neo Color 2MP and 3MP. So those are a pair of displays in a nice tall format, and they're always both color and grayscale. The Coronis Fusion 4MP, 6MP are the ones where there is no bezel between them. It's one fusion surface. And then added to that now, we have the larger Coronis One Look, which really is the ideal thing for radiology when you're dealing with complex cases and you have a lot of work to get done. Similarly, for breast imaging, there's quite a range of them. So we still make a grayscale only display for people that are really only looking at the grayscale images. But most people are using color. And there we have the ones that are a pair of displays, but also a smaller Fusion 12MP. And then the Coronis Unity, which has been very popular, is being replaced by the Coronis One Look that has all the features that we've just been talking about. So why Coronis One Look? It's really about the unmatched image quality. This is a big step up. 2.5 times more pixels, 100% of the Adobe RGB colors, and it's versatile in terms of covering all the different modalities, right? You can look at the breast modalities, you can look at the general radiology modalities, and if you have this on your workstation, you can do all the different kinds. The ergonomics, right? We've designed it to minimize the fatigue, both by having a high medical contrast, making it easy on your eyes in that sense, but also when we talk about the soft glow and the low reflections on the surface and such, these are all things that are nice for that. And then the fleet management, right? In practice, people are part of a group and someone has to manage that equipment, and it's nice that it doesn't have to involve the radiologist in reporting what is this measurement or is the system okay. It's all done automatically, and the most that they would ever see is an icon that has a check box that says like it's all good to go. Someone else remotely is checking it, and the policies are being inherited and they don't have to be fussing with it. And then I think as far as an investment goes, it is backed by a very strong warranty, 5 years, and this is available even in extra years of this. And I think the experience that most people would have had with the Barco displays is that they in fact last a fair bit longer than the warranty period. So, the highest resolution ever achieved in breast imaging. Are you ready to elevate your diagnostic capabilities? Contact your Barco partner. They'll help you out with the information of how to get a hold of this, how to get a demo. And thank you very much for watching.